When was Jesus born? Ever since we were children, we've heard that the 25th of December was the birthday of Jesus, and this is the accepted belief around the world. But why such a specific date for someone who was born so long ago and has no exact date or time of birth recorded? Let's look at what the Bible says. The best indication of the birth of Jesus in the Bible is found in the Gospel of Luke chapter 1. Here we find a man named Zacharias, who was a priest of the course of Abiah. Zacharias had a wife whose name was Elizabeth, and she was barren. While Zacharias was performing his priestly duties in the temple, an angel of the Lord appeared to him and revealed that his wife Elizabeth would conceive and give birth to a son. This child later became known as John the Baptist. When the time of Zacharias' service in the temple was ended, he went home and his wife Elizabeth conceived, and she hid herself for 5 months. In the 6th month of her pregnancy, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to the Virgin Mary and revealed to her that she would conceive a child and called his name Jesus. Within the first chapter of the Gospel of Luke is key information to finding out when Jesus was born. It is worth noting that the Bible does not record enough information about the birth of Jesus for us to know exactly when he was born. It is also worth noting that some assumptions are made for the purposes of calculating when Jesus was born. So how does the calculation work? A pregnancy lasts between 9 and 10 months. Assuming the Virgin Mary became pregnant soon after the angel Gabriel visited her, then she would have been pregnant in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy. Now we have to work out the 1st month of Elizabeth's pregnancy to find out which month would have been her 6th month of pregnancy. Assuming Elizabeth would have conceived soon after Zacharias returned home from his days of service in the temple, then all we have to do is calculate when Zacharias' days of service ended. The Bible tells us that Zacharias was of the course of Abijah. This is important because the priest had appointed times in which they would fulfill their priestly duties in the temple. These times were determined by King David when he set the 24 divisions in order. Each division would take turns to perform their priestly duties 1 week at a time, except for the time of the 3 major feasts, when all the divisions would serve together according to tradition. There were 24 divisions, so one rotation through all 24 divisions would last 24 weeks. This means that each division would serve in the temple twice in a year for a period of 7 days at a time. Zacharias was of the division of Abijah. The Bible tells us that Abijah was of the 8th division. Some sources suggest that the duties for the division of Abijah would have fallen in June or July for the 1st week, and December or January for the 2nd. The Bible gives no indication as to whether it was Zacharias' 1st week of service in the year or 2nd week of service. If it was Zacharias' 1st week of service and Elizabeth conceived immediately upon Zacharias returning home, then 9 months from June or July would fall in March or April. This means that John the Baptist would have been born in March or April, and Jesus would have been born 6 months later in September or October. If it was Zacharias' 2nd week of service and Elizabeth conceived immediately upon Zacharias returning home from the temple, then 9 months from December or January would be September or October. This means that John the Baptist would have been born in September or October, and Jesus would have been born 6 months later in March or April. This does, however, assume some information, since the Bible does not provide exact times of how soon Elizabeth became pregnant after Zacharias returned home, or how soon Mary became pregnant after being visited by the angel Gabriel. It is also not clear which time of year it was when Zacharias was performing his priestly duties. One thing is certain, Jesus was not born on December the 25th. Now you need to watch this video or watch this other video instead.